Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the It's Your Time live stream show and podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. Each week, we bring you transformational stories from entrepreneurs and professionals around the world, sharing their life-changing experiences to give you proof of what's possible after adversity, as well as inspiring and motivating you to take control of your time and take action on your dreams. So this week on the It's Your Time show, I am here with the amazing Nicky Kilnan. Nicky is the founder of Stylist, where she helps her clients share their passion and personality across all their digital accounts, calling on decades worth of interior design and home styling experience. During 2020, she became known as the global go-to girl for helping small businesses gain more exposure with scroll-stopping content. Nicky is a qualified interior designer from the Interior Design Institute. She's a member of the Home Staging Association and recently has been accepted as a member of the British Institute of Interior Design. Nicky Kilnan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. That seems like a lifetime ago now.
I am so excited that we're going to have this stylish conversation today. So, if you are joining us live, let us know in the comments where you're joining us from and how you're doing, what the weather's like. We would just love to connect with you and hear how it's going. If you're listening on replay, obviously you can leave a comment and let us know that you're on the replay. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, then hi. Technology is amazing. As always, I've got some questions and Nicky and I are going to have a conversation, but if anything comes up for you, leave the question in the chat, and if we have time, we will come to your questions. And if you're listening to this in the future on the podcast and you have any questions, you are always very welcome to email us at our email addresses that we will talk about at the end of the podcast, but can always be found in the show notes as well. So let's get started. The questions that I always ask our guests, just to really build a full picture of what's got you to where you are today. So question number one is, tell us a little bit about 4-year-old Nicky. What were you like as a 4-year-old?
Very, very quiet. I was a really, really quiet child. Probably, I would say, a people pleaser from very, very early on in my life. Quite shy. That's obviously gone now. Even though I'm still introverted, I used to be quite a shy person. I am obviously being in the realms of social media now. It helps now. So I think 4-year-old me would be probably stood towards the back, not really wanting anybody to take any notice of me. I was the oldest of 3 brothers and sisters, so I kind of got on with things while the smaller ones were being tended to. So I've always been quite, I just get on with things, I just, from a very, very early age, I just got on with things and dealt with what was handed to me and went to the next one. So changed a bit since then.
I love it. And so what did success mean to you when you were growing up? Do you have any clear memories?
Yeah, I think as an early adolescent and, maybe into 20s, I would say success for me was having a nice car, having lots of money, having that big house that everybody aspires to. And yeah, just you've made it once you've got all that, which obviously now we know that's not true. But back in those days, it would definitely be working towards having more money, working towards 6 holidays a year, working towards, all the materialistic stuff. I guess that's what I perceived as success, which, yeah, it's crazy, really.
And did you have any people who were sort of your influencers as you were going through your life journey, who sort of, can you look back and be like, oh yeah, that was they taught me this, they taught me that?
Yeah, I mean, back then, there was no social media. Like, we were pre-social media, even pre-mobile phone, which again sounds just crazy now. But I think, and it's completely the opposite to what I've just said, but I'd say my biggest influence growing up was my nan. And she was, like I said, just completely the opposite of what I've just said. She was a stay-at-home nan, home cooked meals, didn't go abroad, lived in a, a three-bedroom semi-detached house. But I always wanted to be like my nan, which, like I said, it just doesn't collate to what I've just said. But she was my biggest influence, I think. Influencing on the side of aspirations, oof, I I don't think, or I can't remember anybody off the top of my head that really stuck out. I used to take sort of snippets of, obviously, the likes of, how can I say that? This is it. I don't really, I would say my nan was my biggest influence, because only by reading a paper or watching the TV or reading a book, it's not like it is today. It's changed dramatically on who influences us today, because we get it fed constantly. But I think back then it would I would say definitely my nan.
So interesting, because like we've had a few shows now, and it tends to be the guests are saying it's like a family member or a relative or a teacher or somebody who sort of maybe a neighbor, someone who lived next door, who taught
Yeah,
them a skill or something, or just opened their eyes to a different possibility, a different way of being. But I love asking that question, because I really it was the late Steve Jobs who said we can join the dots, but only when we look back. So suddenly you start to see, oh, that's what that was, and that's how that made sense, and that person. And so for the audience, perhaps, maybe go back and look at your own influences, who around you has given you stability, shown you a way of living, a way of being, a way of working, something to, aspire to.
yeah. Yeah, I think with my nan, I think she was very, I'll use the word steady. Nothing phased her. She just got on with everything that, that was put in front of her. And she was quite a calm person as well. She was very spiritual. And, she used to take me to church every single week on a Sunday, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, she was just an amazing human being to be around. And whatever the situation, she would calm you right down and say, right, this is what we've got, this is how we're going to deal with it. And so maybe, yeah, that's why I just keep going.
I love that. And so perhaps now you can see that as a skill set or a way of being in your own life, your own business, your own career. So talk to us a little bit about your career. You have this amazing, stylish background. So
Not this one.
what were you doing sort of over the years, and then how has it led to what you do right now?
Yeah, I've had quite a varied career, to be honest. I started looking after children when I was 19. And then I worked in a school for, I'd say 12, 13 years, with children that needed extra support. A lot of that was very creative, crafty, all that kind of thing. And then once my son got to high school, I just had enough. So I retrained as a personal trainer and worked as a gym manager for a couple of years. Yeah, not many people know that. So I did that for a couple of years, and then it just wasn't for me. The traveling, I was traveling a lot. So it's a passion that I've always had from, gosh, I think from when I got my first house, was the styling side and interior design. I think I've designed and styled so many of my friends and family's houses. I've lost count now. And I just thought, you know what, it's always something I've had passion about. It's always something I've wanted to do. So while I was still working, I did my Interior Design Institute course. And yeah, I passed it. I think, gosh, yeah, forever ago now. And then started doing that, obviously, on a professional level, even though I was kind of doing it before anyway, just maybe not getting paid as much. And then doing the home styling for estate agents that wanted home styled to sell. So
I love that. So just before you go on, let's just break that down, because this is a question that I get a lot. It's like, I'm in a job, I want to do something else. How do I do it? What do I do? So what I've heard you say there is that you were doing it for friends and family for free. So you are practicing your craft.
yeah,
And then alongside your job that was paying the bills and, you know, keeping life ticking over, you went and did further education. And this would be one of the biggest recommendations that I would have for people that wanted to do that, is
yeah,
make sure your bills are paid so you can breathe
yeah,
and you're not worrying, and then get the education and the qualifications and the skills. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because
yeah,
I think we're just so quick to be like glossing over
yeah,
the thing and like, oh, but it's all right for them. But Nicky's actually just given us the pieces and the steps and how she did it. So if it's possible for her, it's possible for you. So if you're tuning into this, you're listening to this, you're like,
definitely.
I want to do something else, but I'm in this job. One of my big things is like, reframe the gratitude for the job, that it's paying your bills, it's keeping your head above water. You can breathe, you can sleep easy at night because everything is paid, and then invest some of that into the hopes, dreams that you want, and build it alongside. So how did it go for you then, like with a full-time job and building this alongside? What was your decision making around, I'm going to quit one and do another?
Okay, so I did that twice actually, from working in a school to doing the gym, the PT stuff. While I was working in the school, I did my PT courses while I was still working in school, and then I did it again. So you definitely can do it. I think for me, it was I had to do it. So, and I'm a very, if I've got to do something, it's heads down. Just everything else gets blocked, and you just do it. And you've just said, the money needed to come in. I couldn't just think, you know, I don't like doing this anymore. As much as I was tired of it, I had three little ones to support, so I couldn't just jump ship and think, oh, I'll just have a go at this. I needed that stability to pay, to pay the bills, to put food on the table, and keep the little ones going. So for me, it was a means to an end. And yes, I did have late nights. Yes, it wasn't always, my mind wasn't always on it, but I did it. I passed them. And yeah, I carried on. So I definitely recommend that would be, a way for people if they're thinking, how am I going to pay my bills if I just want to change career? I would definitely recommend the do the work, and then, step into it when you've got enough of an income coming from something to jump ship from the job that you don't particularly relish doing.
So what was your kind of like metric or measurement when you were like, yeah, from there to there? And was it different the two times?
The first time I did it from working in a school, I did my training while I was working in the school, and then I finished for the summer holidays when my son was going to high school, and I started another job at the end of the summer holidays. So I was really, really lucky. Um, and I stepped into that job in the September. So that I was really, really lucky on that score. And then it was a life event that actually like catapulted me into the interior design world, where my husband was sent on a secondment to Qatar. So I'd finished my work, and then we went abroad, and I actually got a job out in Qatar. My very first interior design job was out in Qatar.
Wow.
So I came back. It was 2013, and then I just put myself out there as a self-employed, like freelance interior designer. And I'm lucky. I've got the support behind me, financial support behind me of my husband, even though I don't like saying that. So, but I like to earn my own finances, and that's the way I've always been. So for me, there was always that, even though I wouldn't go hungry, there was always that self-worth in earning my own money, I guess. So I just went freelance and did it from there, and yeah, I was successful. And then from that, I started my own sort of interior, like candles and melts and diffusers, and so that helped with the finances as well. But it all went hand in hand. So Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Right. So I'm going to go back to two things that you said, because I think that they are kind of crucial on the journey for people to get. So the first thing you said was about luck.
Yeah.
So you were lucky. But let's really just dig into this lucky thing, because there's this sentence that does the rounds, like
Yeah.
the luckier I am, the more, the more I work, the more I do, the luckier I become. So were you actually lucky?
I
Like
think,
you meditated and a bag of gold landed on your head? Or did you actually do things? And then what things had you done to build relationships, put things in place, that kind of thing? What really was the luck action?
okay, it was, yeah, it's quite bizarre. I think there was definitely an element of the right place and the right time, and even just the timing of the position coming up. I was on a night out in Chester, and we got talking to this group of people, and one of them, this guy had said, "Oh, I'm opening a personal training gym. We're looking for staff members. We're looking for a manager and a PA." So I was like, "Oh, great! That's what I want to do." So a couple of days later, he gave me his card. A couple of days later, I dropped him a message and said, "Are you still looking for staff?" And he's like, "Yes, that's fine. I'm still looking for a gym manager and a PA. Would you like to apply?" So it's like, okay. And that's how it came about. So it was just being in the right place in the right time on a night out. Didn't think too much more of it at the time, but yeah,
And I love this. And just to
network.
delve a little bit deeper into it for people, is serendipity is the word,
Yeah.
but serendipity only comes from two
Uh,
things. The first one is Nicky said she had a kind of idea of what she wanted to do. So when this person, which was the person offering something to what she wanted to do, there was a serendipity there. And then the second thing was you put yourself out there. And I think that this is such a big message in this post-pandemic world that we're coming out into. Getting out there, meeting people, socializing, being with your friends, being with your communities, just living again and being a human again. But when you know what it is that you want, just trusting that the more you put yourself in situations, you are going to attract, because energy, like, to be a bit woo woo for a minute, like energy attracts. And so I think that this is such a great conversation to really unpack luck and serendipity, and how we actually get to where we get to, because it's the question. And I'm sure you have people saying to you, but how did you get this? How? And you're like, well, actually it was a night out. And the truth of it is that, it might be, for me, some of the stuff is like, I worked in this co-working and they sat next to me and we got chatting over coffee. But I had put myself in that place. And I think that this is one of the biggest things about, like, whether you're working from home or you're back to work or you're hybrid working or whatever you're doing, put yourself out there in the world amongst other humans, knowing what it is that you want and trusting that this is a huge, huge part of what it is to create the reality you want to be living. So thank you so much for sharing that one. And then the other thing was that you mentioned that you had some kind of security around you in the form of your husband, your partner. And I think, like, this is one of those elephant in the rooms that a lot of people, they don't talk about. They might sort of feel a bit of a shame about it, a bit, whatever. But we all need stabilizers when we first start learning how to ride a bike. And I think that it's so important for people to understand that when they're going on this new journey with their dreams and whatever it is, that it is not wrong, not bad, not that there's any right or wrong, but to have people who are there to support, whether it's a family member, a partner, friends, government support, whatever it is that will support you in order to take that next step. I think it's there's no other way. There isn't a magic kind of pill that we can take and then suddenly it's like, oh well, now I'm super successful and there we go, it's all fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for, like, personally, I like to do things on my own, and I'm quite a headstrong person like that. So I I don't like taking help from, I like to do things my way because that kind of adds more to the feeling of I've done it, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's always, we all need help at some point. We all need, we need money to pay bills. So having somebody behind you that can make things a little bit easier and maybe take a little bit of the pressure off. And, I know we're not all lucky to have that support behind us, but like you said, there's other ways and means of achieving that and of getting there with that little bit of help.
Yeah, and I think it's so, so important because one of the personality types, I would say, of an entrepreneur is that you want to do it and you want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But one of the personality types of a leader, which is also what an entrepreneur is the ability to ask for help and ask for support and to see that it's stages and phases.
Yeah.
We all might need a mentor or a coach or a trainer or a course or a program or information in order to help us. Is that help or is that just information? Is somebody who believes in you and stands by you while you do your dreams, is that help or is that just... And so it's some of it's semantics, but some of it I think is a really interesting opportunity for us to recognize that not allowing that is what could stop us from taking that next step. So it's almost like if you've got a hope or a dream, whatever it takes, I guess is the message that I'm sort of hearing that came from your nan. Like, you do whatever needs to be done to do it, to get it done.
And it's not always easy, but people think, I think there's quite a perception of this entrepreneurial life is amazing all the time when you just go and have lunch when you want and you do exactly what you want. And that's, people take a lot of hard work to get to that level. There's 18-hour days, some days, if you get up earlier, you've got a launch going on. So I think that's skimmed over as well quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I do think that's, it's very much sort of almost not talked about because everybody wants the shiny side of entrepreneurialism. So I think that side of it is definitely, that side, getting through that is your success as well. Getting through those long days, those hours when you can't look at another screen because you've been looking at it for days on end.
Yeah, and I think that is such a valid point, is that whatever you do for work, quote unquote, to live the life that you want to live, to pay the bills, to stay in the game, there isn't necessarily an easier or a harder. In my kind of language, there's just what needs to be done in order to get it done.
Yeah.
And is it hard or is it easy? It just needs to be done. It's work.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that doing something different is going to be the grass is greener. The grass isn't greener. The grass is just different. But it's grass that you want to be living on, working on, seeing on. So in this whole journey, I guess it's about trying the different things, doing whatever it takes in order to become the expert in it, and then just enjoying and finding the joy and finding the people and being sort of around like-minded communities that keep making it fun. Because yes, there will be some days when you'll work harder than you ever worked in a job, in a 9 to 5, but it doesn't mean that those days are every day.
No, not at all. No, I think, the good days probably do outnumber the harder days, and it's the good days that get you through the harder days. And like you said, everybody's journey is different, and mine literally came out of nowhere, especially this last phase. It was something I saw that needed happening.
So let's talk about where you are right now then, and what does that look like?
Okay. So, do you mean what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I help entrepreneurs and businesses basically create a professional, stylish media presence. So I started off just doing Instagram, but now obviously the way metaverse and everything else is all joining together. So I help them with LinkedIn stories, with Facebook. So it's just styling their whole media outlet, really. I did a course once with a mentor, and it's always stuck in my head. What she said to me was, your social media isn't just a social media challenge. She said that is your media outlet. So that is your TV show, that is your TV channel. So everything that you put out there on, you know, your website, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, everything, all has to like kind of weave together. It has to be consistent, and you don't want to keep watching the same show over and over again. It has to be consistent, but it has to be varied as well. And that always stuck with me. And then when I started, it was June 2020, I started Style SM, because obviously we'd just gone into the pandemic. So everything was jumping online. And I saw a real disjoint in a lot of people's social media presences, for want of a better word. And I'd started working on the social media for one of the estate agents I used to work for. And she had so many comments and so many people asking who she was using and, you know, what she'd done differently. And it just went crazy. So I found there was a real need for it. And yeah, I filled my books in 6 months. It was crazy.
Amazing. I love it. And this is like entrepreneurship 101. Find a problem, solve the problem. Grow a name for yourself, build a business. So what is one thing that you would tell your your younger self, sorry, knowing what you know now?
Don't doubt yourself, and anything is possible if you want it enough. So yeah, for me, I think when I was younger, I doubted even doubting breathing. You know, when I was younger, I was quite a very introverted person, and somebody that didn't want to do anything in case I didn't please the right people, or I wasn't, you know, doing the right thing. But now I think the only people I have to worry about pleasing is myself, my children, and just my self-satisfaction for things. I think not to worry about what people say on the internet and things like that, because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. You know.
Amazing. I love, love, love it. So where can we connect and find out more about you online? Where do you hang out?
Okay, so mostly I'm on Instagram, which is stylemy_SM. That's predominantly where you'll find me. I have got a Facebook page, Style SM, and my website is www.stylesm.com. But most of the time you'll find me hanging out on Instagram.
Amazing. And we're going to leave all the links to Nicky underneath the post, the show notes, so you will be able to connect with her there. So thank you so much for your time. Let us know in the comments what your top takeaways were from this episode this week, because Nicky has really shared some sort of foundational pieces and steps, which, as I said at the time, like if we go over this too fast, we don't see, and literally they are the gold. There is no other way, but the more I do, the luckier I become, and just really getting out there and having clarity about what it is that you want to do, and then trying the things. So thank you so, so much for joining us today, Nicky, and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
It's been amazing. So thank you for joining us live today. And if you've caught this on the replay, let us know you were here for the replay as well. And we look forward to seeing you again next week, when we're going to have another amazing guest sharing their journey and their proof of what's possible for you. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing those hands.